The only thing you did wrong was that you loved someone and that they used that love that you had for them to exploit, imprison, and torture you. That's not your fault. Today, we're going to be looking at 4 tips to help you to overcome narcissistic abuse and to walk away from a narcissistically abusive relationship. Let's start with the easiest one, and that is humility. If you're sat wondering why it is that you can't just heal and move on, typically what I've found with my clients over the years is that there's a struggle, there's kind of an ego battle that's been provoked between you and the narcissistic partner. And what's happened is they've delivered narcissistic injury to you, so you're responding with a narcissistic defense. Where they're egoic, we become egoic. I'm not saying you're naturally like that, you're probably not, but you'll find over time, through being in rapport with a narcissist, through developing empathy with a narcissist, you begin to mirror them. So where they can be petty, persecutory, and sort of vindictive and competitive and egocentric, we can start to become the same way as well. So the reason why I advocate humility is as a pill to deal with that ego that's come in. Ego is going to stay in the no, the denial. So I'll say, hey, you might be a bit of a codependent now. And you go, no, I'm not. I'll say, hey, you might have a bit of complex post-traumatic stress now as a result of this relationship. And you'll go, no, I don't. You'll go into denial and you'll want to compete. And you want to show them. You showed them that you were right and they were wrong and so on and so forth. You won't escape. You won't heal like this. Healing requires neuroplasticity. Healing and moving on requires that, in a certain sense, your brain restructure to accommodate this event. And that neuroplasticity post-narcissistic abuse can only come through humility. So submit, open, relax, go into a yin state. Sometimes it's time to be yang and defiant. And to fight, this is not now. If you want to move on, you go yin, you say, okay, I lost. I failed to make the relationship work. I failed to see that they were narcissistic or abusive. The relationship isn't going to work now. I've lost this one. Some people are like, I'm not a quitter. I never want to give up. Give this up. Do the Kierkegaardian despair move. It's like a judo sacrifice throw. Give up and walk away. So we start with humility. The second tip I have for you that is going to be hugely important is forgiveness. You must forgive the narcissist or psychopath for everything that they did, every horror and wrongdoing. I'm just kidding. I'm gaslighting you. I don't believe that at all. Forgiveness, much more of a loaded word I've found with my American clients. Forgiveness inside of American culture is, I think it's forced on people a lot more. I get a much stronger reaction there than I do anywhere in Europe and certainly in the UK to the forgiveness thing. I think it's kind of being used religiously and also in the New Age movement. And maybe they did it with the best of intentions, but it ends up gaslighting victims of toxic personalities and emotional abuse and narcissistic abuse. But yet I am saying it's one of our 4 pillars here for healing and moving on. Why? It's not them that needs to be forgiven. You don't have to forgive them. I would say, go to therapy, process this emotionally, grieve for the loss, and maybe form a new moral philosophy whereby you would never let somebody get away with that or even let them into your life again. You do need to let it go. You don't want to spend the rest of your life in resentment. But after your humility, where you admit, I lost, I failed, it's gone, I give up, it's broken, and you cry and you grieve, then you need to forgive. Who? You. You forgive yourself. The weight of guilt and self-loathing that I see victims of narcissistic abuse carrying makes it impossible for them to actually authentically move on with their lives because they're in a state of moral injury, they're in a post-traumatic stress state or shock, and they don't really know what's happened. So they go into a fight mode as a response, or they freeze. They're usually stuck between fighting and freezing because of the shock. And they've really, really struggled to forgive themselves. The narcissist, of course, as you all know, because I have trained you well, is going to colonize the superego. which is a part of your mind identified by Freud. He used the term Über-Ich in German, which means over I, and that was poorly translated to superego. Über-Ich, over I is probably better. It's the part of your ego above the ego, over the ego, that is actually determining what kind of moral decisions the ego should be making as it operates in the world. This is good, therefore I will do it. That is bad, therefore I will not do it. The narcissist hijacks and colonizes that part of you, so it makes it very, very difficult for you to make moral decisions. You may have even noticed that your morality, if you think back to how you were and who you were before the relationship, has now become somewhat corrupted. It's moving in a very, very strange direction. It's normal. That's okay. You must have the ability, though, to forgive yourself for getting into this relationship. The only thing you did wrong was that you loved someone and that they used that love that you had for them to exploit, imprison, and torture you. That's not your fault. So you have to be able to say, I forgive myself for loving somebody who was not a good person, who was not good for me, and who lied to me. I have to be able to forgive myself for being tricked. I have to be able to forgive myself for getting seduced into this situation. And if you can do that, and you can be humble, and you can forgive yourself, you'll be able to move on. Not that important that you forgive them. It's important that you process what they did. It's important that, preferably within a solid therapeutic relationship, you can accommodate the fact that that kind of evil exists in the world, where somebody would provoke love from you only to exploit your love, your loyalty, your conscience, your conscientiousness, in order to, as I say, to exploit, imprison, and torture you. But forgive yourself. The only thing that you did wrong, your great sin, was to love another human being. And I don't consider that a particularly great sin. The third tip I'm going to give you is to recognize that you are not overcoming that person. When you're overcoming, when you're healing the narcissistic, the abusive relationship, it's not about them. We think of it as being them because that's where all the pain comes from, and that's where all of the drama and all of the incidents and all of the history and all of the karma comes from, is my relationship with Bob, my relationship with Mary. And my brain, my central nervous system goes, Mary did this to me. And of course, in some ways, she did. Things can be true without being real. So in a certain reality and a certain perspective, Mary did do that. Mary is responsible for that. But in terms of you overcoming, you need to realize something. In all relationships, in healthy relationships, there is you, there is the other person, and then there is this other element. It's a concept that's explored in philosophy, and it's a concept that is referred to a lot in Lacanian psychoanalytic theory. We don't need to get into that. I can't penetrate Lacan. I wouldn't expect you to, and I don't think we need to. We can just go from the outside and say, okay, we're aware. In a normal, healthy relationship, in all healthy relationships, we all blue pill to a degree. There's me, there's the other person, and then there's the fantasy. And when we interact, we both enter into this third element. So, how do we overcome that? I have a course called Break the Trauma Bond that specifically looks to dissolve not your perception, your love, your hang-ups with the other person, but this third element. And within that course, we even give it a name. And because I'm a nerd for Lord of the Rings, I make you there's a way that you process this. So you take your name, that person's name, and make it sound like a character from Lord of the Rings. Why? Because I'm a nerd. And also because it's a good pattern interrupt. So you stop thinking, I have to get over Bob, or I have to get over Mary, whatever I called the other lady. And now I have to get over this Galadriel, or whatever the name is, the weird otherworldly name is. So you're constantly reminding yourself it's not about them, it's about this third element that we created. By the way, that Break the Trauma Bond course, it's been updated, it's been redone, and it's currently one of the modules within the Unplug from the Matrix of Narcissistic Abuse course, which is a course I just created. And you can get that from this link below if you click there now. The fourth element is I ideally would like you to try and find a way to connect with other human beings, a community, This is the most important thing. So you don't isolate with the shame and the ego and like the inability to get over the guilt, that you actually start deliberately connecting with other people, because this type of abuse, this narcissistic abuse, emotional abuse, it causes you to want to withdraw. So actually deliberately connect. Now, there's two levels to this. One, you have meaningless but pleasurable connections with people at the most superficial level. I don't know, you take up a sport or a hobby or an activity, and you're just there looking at people and talking to people, giving and taking. You offer them your time and attention. You take their time and attention. It is natural. It is normal. It helps us to heal. That's not just my hippy dippy, I took too much acid in my teen's opinion. That is actually research-based. We know this. In the published research, we know that connection with other people is very important. Of course it is. Like oxygen is important and water is important. We are tribal creatures. We are group mammals. We must have our group. We must have our tribe. So that's at the first level. Lightweight, tennis or rock climbing or yoga or whatever your thing is. You connect with people at that level. Ideally, that's the most important thing. If you only stop there, I'm happy. If you can also connect with the community, and face-to-face would be better, but in online, it's okay too, with people who've shared your experience of narcissistic abuse, so that you're talking to people who know what you've been through. If you don't, and you tell your stories of narcissistic abuse to somebody who's never lived that, it's frequently so outlandish and so weird that they won't believe what you're saying. So you need to be speaking to people who do. The purpose of joining this community, though, is only for as long as it takes you to start overcoming and healing and moving on. I would say about 6 months. So if you got a therapist who understood narcissistic abuse and you got into a good, healthy rapport with them, you found a community and you found people who've been involved in narcissistic abuse. If you take my course, the Unplugged from the Matrix of Narcissistic Abuse course, I can add your therapist into that for free. So you can go through the course with your therapist. That's no problem. We've done that for over 10 psychotherapists now. They've joined the course and now they moderate it and they change it as they want, which they're absolutely free to do. About 6 months. And then after the 6-month period, you want to be coming out of the narcissistic abuse reality tunnel. It's a dark place to be. I don't need to tell you that. But ultimately, beyond all of this, we need to start looking forward to moving towards what we do want in our lives. So the fifth element of this that transcends all of this is when you're ready, you must move into a better, brighter future as a more mature, more individuated human being. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you. Hello, folks. Just to let you know, we now have a new course out. It's finally finished. It's called Unplug from the Matrix of Narcissistic Abuse. And it's available from richardgrannon.com. Just hit this link right here and you can go get it.